Hello and welcome back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Today we will be doing a rundown of Dev Diary 99. If you want to maybe listen to this in the background, this will mostly be me talking, and so playing the game while listening to it might be something you'd be interested in. Dev Diary 99 is going to cover almost entirely local flavor for South America, which is going to be featured in patch 1.5 alongside this DLC slash flavor pack that is going to be released alongside it. Most of the mechanical features have already been covered in previous Dev Diaries that are going to be released and seen in 1.5. I think they briefly mentioned them in a couple spots here, but that's what we will be kind of going over today. This Dev Diary is really long, just a heads up in terms of length, and so let us get into it. First of all, they do have a trailer for this region pack that is going to be featured alongside the free update 1.5 Colossus of the South, which we will first watch, and then we will do other stuff. So let's come in and take
Greetings, Victorians. In November, we celebrate 20 years of Victoria with some special surprises. First, the massive free update 1.5 will go live with reworked warfare, companies, local prices, and a lot more. This is the grandest update to military, economy, and diplomacy in Victoria 3 yet. And, as a special surprise, we are announcing today the new region pack, Colossus of the South.
Which this is the main feature of course, what we are watching.
This pack will be included as a bonus in the Grand Edition and the Expansion Pass.
It was not included when you bought them. It was not declared that it was been included. It's just being thrown in.
If you already own these versions, you will get this for free on November 14th. Colossus of the South is a narrative-driven pack centered around the Amazon River. Rich in culture and resources, South America enters the Victorian Age with a lot of advantages. However, many challenges await these nations newly freed from European dominance, as they carve out their place in a new world, help them fulfill the promise of the Victorian Age. We cannot wait to celebrate 20 years of Victoria with you. Right now, you can play the 1.5 open beta on Steam, or check out the website.
You opt into it by right-clicking in your Steam library, and then clicking Properties, and then clicking Betas, and then clicking 1.5. It is relatively stable, although there are still bugs, and there are still balance problems, but it is supposed to be content, for the most part, content complete. I don't think it's not going to include this DLC changes, though.
Site for more news on Colossus of the South. We hope to see you on November 14th.
Alright. So November 14th is also going to be the release date of Update 1.5 when it goes live. So let's kind of come back into it and, take a little bit of an overview here. We have this little infographic. I love infographics. They're like big nice, but we see info stuff for Pedro here, National Genesis for new stuff regarding what cultures you're going to get with Brazil and unification, pan-national ambitions. You can, as multiple countries, unify South America. I don't think it's complete unification, but it's a pretty big one. The Old Republic, around the Brazilian Empire and the birth of the first Brazilian Republic. Most of the stuff is going to be Brazilian. The Paraguayan War, stuff for Paraguay, including a really interesting ideology that looks a little strong. Historical characters, I don't think they cover that too much. Populism and modernism, there's some stuff regarding migration. I mean, there's a ton of events. We're going to get into them. Into the Amazon, stuff related to the Amazon and exploitation. And most notably, there is an event for changing the state bonus of the Amazons, which I think is really, really nice, which includes reducing the infrastructure and construction malices. And so we'll get into that. And then new clothing, event images, and more, which, as you know, is not necessarily my purview. And here you can see another infographic for 1.5. Again, huge, big, nice on the infographics. Really love them. We have new unit formations for armies and fleets. Military graphics, soldiers on the map. Again, not a huge driver for me, but some people really like these. Diplomatic state trading. This mechanic in the beta doesn't seem overall that robust, but like they're tuning it. It is in the beta, and maybe it's just when you have all the colonial territories, no one wants to trade with you anyways. Local prices, which hugely updates economic situation and how you play with economics. I'm going to be having probably on release a flight of a bunch of economic tutorials. Impose law on subject mechanic, which is new. Companies, which are new. They are currently mostly just like you get a bonus type of thing, and the bonus is construction and throughput. But it is something that is going to scaffold, and both companies and agitators, I think, on the release are just very structural, and then we will get to see them develop into really robust and interesting mechanics as time goes on. But it's not, the companies aren't like overwhelmingly. Actually, I really like them, so we'll keep moving on. Multiple battles along the southern front line. This definitely changes things where if you have an overwhelming advantage, now it's really easy to mop up wars very quickly. The AI is not very good at handling the new military system, but of course, in the beta right now, travel system for formations, new formable nations, and colonial administrations, which currently seems not worth doing a colonial administration, because you can't build in your subjects' territory, so you can't just like release the administration and give them stuff. But anyways, so let us get into the paid content, which is going to be mainly the majority of what we're looking through today is going to be Brazil content. Colossus of the South is largely centered around a large nation in South America, Brazil, with a selection of content for its neighbors. Owners will be able to experience Brazil's history through from 1836 to 1936 with new events, etc., mostly etc. The Colossus of the South contains a selection of journal entries for Paraguay relating to the buildup of the War of the Triple Alliance. For other Hispanophone South American countries, the region pack contains journal entries revolving around pan-nationalism ambition. So you will be able to kind of unite South America. And then I think that very critically, like, South America has like not been a nice place to play in because of the construction and infrastructure malices throughout all of the Amazons. That you can reduce the 30% malice to a 10% malice is huge. To the United Provinces of Rio de Plata, to Simon Bolivar's greatest ambition, a unified Spanish-speaking South America. So, which is South America minus Brazil, right? I think that's roughly correct. Okay, so Magnanimous Monarch, and we're diving into the events. It's going to be just a ton of event stuff. We're going to try and, tease through it quite a bit, but this is what a majority of the dev diary will be, just kind of heads up on this. Brazil begins the game in perilous position with an 11-year-old monarch on the throne and a country in a state of revolt and upheaval. Yeah, currently in the 1.5 beta, they can't win their revolts, but I'm sure they will by release. The Magnanimous Monarch entry is the primary journal entry for Brazil's early game and will remain until Pedro II either perishes or is removed from the throne. So, big nice for all the people who are, my Brazil viewership. You're going to be getting a ton of local content. You can see minus intelligentsia, with the Emperor's Regency. And we get this Magnanimous Monarch, event chain thing, which will, you're trying to get things going. And let's see, it doesn't say what you get for the progress. If progress on this journal entry will be determined by actions carried out through the game, perfect. This makes sense. Tied into nearly every piece of content experienced by Brazil. The following conditions will deplete the progress bar. His male heirs have died. His health is in decline. He's failed a Republican proposal. Brazil has slavery banned, so you have to keep slavery around in order to gain progress here. The armed forces and land owners are powerful and not in government. Brazil doesn't have tenant farmers or serfdom, etc., etc. And we can see that, this is going to cause you to play in a particular way, which is interesting. While Pedro, the following will advance the bar, he's crowned emperor, ending the regency period. Princess Isabel has been confirmed as heir to the throne. Armed forces and landowners are marginalized. I assume this will give you some choices. Completed the Brazilian national identity, completed Brazilian naval power. And so you can become this progressive thing, or you can become this regressive thing, right? Pedro represents a higher intelligentsia class, and the royal family is abolitionist. The extent to which entrenched agrarian oligarchy is willing to tolerate reformism is severely limited. Failing the crisis that embroiled Brazil throughout the reign will lead to the military and landowners coming closer together and assuming an unrestricted power while successfully centralizing authority and tying the nation together will bring them further from doing so. And you can see the journal entries giving progress, or is it's advanced. The armed forces, a potential threat, have become politically marginalized, and so this will allow you to have like more intrigue. You can put guys in government. Can use bolsters, and what is it, suppresses a little bit more in a way that's more dynamic and interesting. Rather than cookie cuttering kind of the same. Opening moves regarding your politics and this sort of stuff. If one wishes to embark on the monarchist course, one must seek to minimize the power of the landowners and armed forces, keep Brazil on a strong and stable course, and be willing to make short-term penalties for long-term political gain. Interesting. So this, in which case, we're not trying to do the regressive monarchy, but a progressive monarchy. If all goes well, rather than heralding the end of an empire, Pedro II's death will be regarded as only the beginning to a continued enlightened reign. This, of course, being the female heir that you have to put in order to, kind of make progress on this journal entry. On the other hand, while landowners were remain basically supportive of the institution of monarchy, continuing down the reformist road will alienate them further and further until they become fully fledged reporters of a oligarchic republic. And this one I find very interesting because instead of gaining, instead of having the paternalistic ideology, they get the elitist ideology, but this is, kind of way earlier. And there's another one where they get oligarchy as their thing that they support, where we'll have to find that, but there's another journal entry thing where they get supporting of oligarchy rather than monarchy, which is an interesting one. We see here is this oligarchic republic Brazil, a nice little picture, and then we now have the matter of slavery in Brazil. The economy in Brazil, largely dependent on agricultural exports, is massively dependent upon slavery as a source of cheap labor. Notably, just wanted to mention, they have a unique IG bonus. Instead of giving 10% instead of giving 15% to agriculture and plantations, they get like 30% to just plantations, or is it 20% to plantations and 10% to agriculture? In any case, Brazilian rural folk bonuses give more plantation throughput than any other country in the game, which makes it so, in theory, you might actually want to go agricultural as Brazil. While abolitionist elements in society, including the royal family, condemn slavery, to truly abolish it represents an economic struggle. And so we have the matter of slavery, and you can kind of ban it or ban it, enforce the law or just kind of enforce it. And then this gives you a little bit of conflict with the UK, who can decide to raid your, slave ships and, seize your slave ships, which of course is an event chain. And the event chain will be symmetric on, or not necessarily symmetric, but you will also see it as the UK, giving you something to do. Britain possesses similar journal entry, provided the player with several tools for combating Brazilian slavery on the high seas. Yar. Okay. Landlubber. Similar to the Magnanimous Monarch journal entry, the Matter of Slavery journal entry possesses a set of conditions that will lead to it increasing or decreasing. Leaning into the landowners a necessity, if they are particularly powerful, will deplete the progress bar, bringing slavery closer and closer to being a permanently entrenched institution, whereas keeping the bar stable will prevent that outcome from occurring. And so now you have this thing where you are going to want to, I think that one of the more interesting things in Victoria 3, or at least was very interesting to me in release, was trying to massage and engage in various moves to manipulate the clout of guys, and I think that this will be pretty interesting for Brazil. You see here, you will advance the progress bar by having the landowners marginalized and the intelligentsia and government and etc. Okay. The official state of the nation on slave trading can be switched every 2 years in the second button of the journal entry, either providing bonuses or to suppressing the slave trade at the cost of angering the landowners, or the inverse. Here, those are some malices, right? Restricted slave trade, minus slave imports, minus IG approval, etc. And we're getting through. Despite these measures, however, the only comprehensive way to end the slavery trade will to be pass legacy slavery law, which will end the harassment of Brazilian vessels and slow the progress bar towards zero. So I'm guessing you might even want to, normally you just like to ban it outright, but given the like contextual position in Brazil. It might be you might want to go legacy first, especially based on them saying this, which is an interesting kind of dynamic, right? Because most of the time you just ban slavery, and so going legacy first is an interesting play pattern that you don't normally engage in. Although it might still be best just to go ban slavery and then force a rev. Enacting legacy slavery, however, is not the end. In order to truly end slavery, Brazil needs to risk the ire of the landowners and the credibility of the monarchy by enacting slavery ban law. Fortunately, with this, which I think this is a interesting, power dynamic where you're trying to keep the monarchy in while, destroying the cloud of the interest group that supports the monarchy, which is the landowners, by enacting slavery ban. Fortunately, with this journal entry, there's a tool through which the process may be expedited, albeit controversially. Issue the Golden Law. Let's see, what does this do? Instantly passes slavery ban at the cost of infuriating pro-slavery interest groups. The progress bar of Magnanimous Monarch is depleted by 1, so this affects the other journal entry. Brazil enables slavery ban, and landowners get -10 interest group approval. Well, that'll instantly force a rev, unless you I guess you could try and roll specifically maybe a market liberal landowner past some laissez-faire free trade, and then they will tolerate this -10 approval. But okay, let's go through here. Coffee and milk, which is going to lead you a little bit more agrarian, it seems. Brazil, throughout the 19th and earliest 20th centuries, has an economy centered around coffee and other agricultural products. Fantastic. Currently, it doesn't really feel like you can specialize in this type of stuff in terms of metagame, but, we are going to see some bonuses. The River of Coffee journal entry, triggered by research in intensive agriculture and investing into the plantation sector, will guide Brazil into a more agrarian direction, presenting incentives for both the human player and the AI to invest in the coffee industry. You will see here, increase the amount of buy orders for coffee within the market by 50%. So you can do this by exporting, or just by, growing XYZ thing, and Brazil has greater or equal to level of 125 plantation buildings, and this is kind of the conditions, and then you'll trigger the money tree. In order to complete this journal entry, providing lots of coffee is not enough, Brazil must first find a buyer for it all, whether it is through greatly growing the domestic economy or through exports. So you can get this, by increasing population a lot. Exports is a more sensible path, according to them. Have they seen migration recently? And if focused on, can grow the Brazilian economy to new heights. So we see here you're getting plus standard of living for middle and upper strata, plus infrastructure, and plus migration attraction. The migration attraction is pretty nice for 5 years. With this wealth, however, comes power, and the Brazilian plantation economy grows. A new trend will emerge in politics. The monopolization of power by the agrarian oligarchy, and politics being increasingly bent around 2 states. Whereas historically the states were Minas Gerais and Sao Paulo, in Victoria 3 and additional combinations is possible, and so we see consequences of this growth. And I think that this is where we will see we'll get into it, but I think the landowners become more oligopic. Okay, so the coffee and milk journal entry represents its political consequences. The presence of the monarchy will prevent an absolute worst case of the presence of the monarchy will prevent the absolute worst cases of the coffee milk system from emerging. Interesting. So you want the monarchy around to avoid this, but if empowered, the landowners create significant agricultural boom, are able to institute their ideal republic, there will be no limit as to what they may do. So it's perhaps the case that you want to lean into this, and do a little... Generally, the landowner is kind of the most hated interest group, but here we see plus 25 political strength for 19 years. I am guessing if you get the bad coffee and milk thing, but also plus 10% legitimacy based on government clout, and plus 50 political strength to the value of aristocrats, which is probably pretty easy to maintain high legitimacy, and you get it for 19 years. And then you see conservative republic under Brazilian name, has a dynamic name, determined by the most prosperous non-capital state, and so it is the minus Republican Party. Now, of course, you only see 50 legitimacy, so maybe this isn't the way to go. Okay. They say something about positivism. The coffee and milk journal entry can be escaped through breaking the power of the landowners and modernizing Brazil. But how to do that when they control politics so heavily? Who knows? The next piece of content will present the answer. The New Republic. So here we have, a different kind of direction with the petite bourgeoisie. We see that this bonus or this event is going to give plus 25% petite bourgeoisie political strength. Notably, changes made to interest groups in 1.5 are going to make the petite bourgeoisie easier to empower, much, much easier. They've changed attraction a lot. The intelligentsia are hard to bring up, for example. The petite bourgeoisie notably does a lot better generally. And here we can lose the reactionary ideology and instead gain the modernizer ideology. So we're going to see generally, you don't like the petite bourgeoisie because they oppose a lot of the better laws, which aren't even that much better anymore because multiculturalism seems less important. But, well, it's not just multiculturalism, but this modernizer ideology might be a little bit better. Let's get into it in a second. Once the political agitation technology is researched, a little late, the Brazilian landowners remain powerful. The populist movement will begin in Brazil, seeking to break power from the landed aristocracy and bring modernity to the nation. So we see a development over time, this monarchy to this coffee and milk republic, maybe if the monarchy fails, to this modernization element here. In terms of having a sort of narrative structure of things. This movement will rely on an alliance between the intelligentsia and the petite bourgeoisie, both, which is not always normal, but they are not as opposed as the religious and the intelligentsia, both urban classes whose influence has been arrested by the dominance of the agrarian oligarchy, as opposed to the developed nations where the petite bourgeoisie have everything to lose and zealously guard the status quo. In Brazil, they have everything to win by finally overthrowing the old order. To represent their current interest in the modernized nation, this journal entry will grant the modernizer ideology to the petite bourgeoisie, which will make them marginally less reactionary and slightly more useful. Here you can see they support protectionism, they support compulsory primary school, they support interventionism, and they also support compulsory primary school, which is double support, which is, in terms of support, that's twice as much as normal. Now, the populist movement will persist until it can either overthrow the government or get quashed down by the current order. Turmoil, unemployment, and petite bourgeoisie clout will advance it, while loyalists, home affairs, and policing institutions will fight against it. Interesting. Turmoil and unemployment and petite bourgeoisie clout will advance it. You don't necessarily want to pursue turmoil and unemployment, but it will help, I guess. While the populist journal entry is active, events will appear. We love events that pertain to the officers' revolts and growing organization among the urban liberal classes. And so you see a couple of these events. If it succeeds in overthrowing the landowner-dominated government, it will seize power in swift coup and institute the autocracy law under the justification that the current political system has utterly failed Brazil. That's interesting. That's super interesting. I think I skimmed over that when I was reading through this the first time. The petite bourgeoisie and their allies have successfully overthrown government and installed their own modernizing regime. A new journal entry is added, inviting Brazil to implement a variety of reforms determined by the modernizers, as well as crushing communism. We love that. So we see here, what will this do? Okay, I guess we have to crush it. The New Republic. We need censorship, autocracy, interventionism, presidential republic. The dictatorial period will invite the rise of many other radical ideologies and new vectors for social unrest. That's cool. So you can maybe use this to leapfrog into communism or something like this. Okay, now we have nation building section here. In 36, not a united nation, but they will get regional identities loosely, or patchwork of regional identities, loosely unified by one sharing government. And so you will need to struggle with this and try and integrate these things. And so now it seems you can decide which cultures you want to integrate. I'm not sure if you can integrate all of them, but it will give you, it will complete if you integrate all of them, which is fantastic. And you will get in return 5% prestige, assimilation, migration, attraction. Migration attraction seems like a very strong modifier in general, but you already have actually, it's really, really extra strong. Percentage modifiers are going to be extra strong with Brazil or any New World nation because they have so much flat modifier from unused arable lands, which I think should be nerfed, but this is kind of a separate discussion. 4 cultures have been added to Brazil: Nordestino, Sulista, Paulista, and Amazonic, representing different regional identities. These populations will represent sizable minorities at game start, and due to the fact that Brazil does not have any of these cultures at primary, constant risk of secession. Yeah, discrimination is a problem in Brazil. It's hard to get qualification, and we see here on the map, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them. We see Afro-Brazilian having a majority of the culture, or what is this, political power, the population, but very little political power. It looks like the Nordestino is not discriminated against here, which is why they have most of the political power, despite, not having necessarily as much of the population. Afro-Brazilian is, of course, the slaves. Okay. Through fulfilling conditions listed for each culture, which will require you interacting with other aspects of Brazil's content, the disparate regional cultures will be targeted one by one, brought into the fold. And we can come in here, banning slavery, national hero event, river of coffee, and so this is going to give you, some interesting things to play around with. The cultures are not fully integrated within 50 years of the start date. The integrity of the nation will be compromised in secessional movements, and etc., potentially bringing Pedro II's reign to ruin. To be fair, he might just die of old age by then. Okay. New releasable nations have also been added, representing the various cultures of Brazil in addition to the existing succession tags, which is interesting, especially if you want to carve up Brazil at some point, as a means of making them more bite-sized pieces. They have added quite a bit with positivism, it seems. The history of Brazil and Latin America has been heavily influenced by the influence of positivism, a philosophical strand ideology, and atheistic religion founded by Auguste Comte. In the early game, France will receive a new free event, needed some France buffs, representing the foundation of positivism, unlocking the positivist ideology for the rest of the world. Many years will pass between positivism's development and its popularization, but once certain technologies are researched, it will make entry into the political scenes of nations, of eligible nations. By the way, France doesn't need buffs, just to be clear. We see the Positivist Church event, similar to existing ideologies for political movements such as nihilism and communism events. The progress of positivism will be tracked through a variable and will be influenced through events. Nations with the Positivism Journal will be able to make choices to endorse or suppress, etc., and so you will be able to engage with it. Notably, positivism is both allows for like nihilism, but I think it also allows you to support technocracy, and so it will also allow you to, support a change from, for someone like Xing, who cannot normally go get off of state religion because their intelligentsia doesn't support it. It'll be easier, and you can also use positivists to, put anti-religious, sentiment on, let's say, the industrialists that can make it easier to pass stuff. So this is going to be a mechanic that you might want to play around with depending on what your start looks like. So, for example, like Russia would maybe want to go like positivist because they kind of struggle with the Orthodox Church and getting out from underneath them. Okay, there are going to be events about positive influence in elite circles of society, especially the military. Embracing positivism fully will grant benefits to military science and influence of the armed forces at the cost of greatly increasing the spawn rate of positivist leaders and the political influence of officers and intellectuals. Very interesting. Do we see some of these bonuses? Let's see, 5% military research speed and extra armed forces political strength. That seems good. In the end, the fate of positivist movement will depend on the degree of influence they've been able to receive. If the movement is politely but firmly rejected, it will be regarded as just another bad ephemeral trend, and you minus petite bourgeoisie political strength. But if fully embraced, positivism will remain for some time to come. We see for 5 years, plus political strength for petite bourgeoisie and interest group approval, and positivist figures will be more likely to appear. And then Brazil has some unique interactions with positivist content, and this is what I was talking about. They will lose stratocratic and gain the oligarchic ideology, which is a little bit new, where they are going to endorse tenant farmers instead of serfdom. They are going to, which can make it easier to get off some of these things. They are going to, it looks like that's going to be the primary axis. that they are going to be interested in. Public schools and private schools. Ooh, endorse public schools and private schools is new. And endorse total separation, I think, is also new. So that will be, probably something you want to lean in with Brazil. Okay. Next up is we have the Paraguayan War, and we're going to kind of go through the rest of this a little bit faster because we do want to get through all of this. An isolationist start in South America. It is ruled by the iron fist of Dr. Jose Gaspar Rodriguez de Francia, an eccentric dictator who's devoted to transforming his nation into a Rousseauian paradise. You love to see it. Paraguay starts with a set of laws reflecting its unique situation, a journal entry for leaders, and a unique ideology. Despotic utopian. This ideology looks very, very interesting. Notably, it is going to be endorsing and I'm not sure if this is just... I think this is just one they can roll, which this might be one of the better ideology, uniqueness in the games. So for example, France has the Orleanists, which supports laissez-faire and can roll on, landowners and this type of thing. But here with the Despotic Union, we support technocracy, oligarchy, autocracy, and single-party state. Generally speaking, I think technocracy is a decent shout, and single-party state is very strong. We also have endorsing secret police, and unfortunately, strongly opposing guaranteed libs, which is one of the better ones. We see endorsing total separation. Depending on what these things could go on, the Despotic Union, that's going to allow you to, kind of move in that direction. And endorse multiculturalism, something that seems less important because they are allowing now migration to be non-zero from discriminated areas, but this is going to be, maybe a direction you want to go in, and is strongly endorse isolationism, which is amusement. The supreme eccentric dictator, and you get an event that will give you Paraguay loses Paraguayas, minus 80% devout political strength, plus 200% intelligentsia political strength, 10% authority, minus 40% enactment chance, which I don't even know what that's going to mean. I guess you just can't pass laws, and 20% radicals from standard living decreases. How long is this? Oh, you get rid of this thing, which is very interesting, which basically means you can't enact anything if you complete what this is. With the support of his secret police, the dreaded Paraguayans, Dr. Frankie had ruled the country with a firm hand, exchanging his good glove for an iron fist whenever needed. Okay. He may not survive the good doctor himself. Interesting. It completes if you make him not the ruler, but minus 40% enactment chance is going to make it hard to pass anything. The perpetual dictatorship cannot necessarily last for as long as it advertises. Once Frankia dies, the power struggle will emerge. And so maybe this is one where you actually don't pass laws at the start. That's interesting. But we will see more event changes. We see the Heart of America, where we can, get some very significant bonuses, if I recall correctly. The journal entries, opportunities for modernization, allowing Paraguay to experience the boom in GDP and pop that it got or historically. You see stuff like plus home defense, offense, defense, supply consumption, and some interesting bonuses. 20% iron mines throughput for 20 years. That's pretty strong. Throughput on or building output on small arms and artillery. Output's notably a lot stronger than throughput. Steel mills throughput, these types of things. And then over here we see birth rate of farmers, laborers, peasants, and servicemen plus 40%. Big catch up, and some of these modifiers might be really strong. Of course, Paraguay starts in a really weak spot, so still probably not going to be OP or anything, but it is going to be interesting. Once this entry is complete, Paraguay will be in a strong position to challenge its neighbors. Okay. And challenge them at will. Something like this. We see Napoleon of the Americas, yikes, and the General's Dream. Of course, we see, CV Passem Fac Bellum, which is, it is what it is. Not sure exactly how that's pronounced, obviously. We're the opponent for other South American powers, and we can see you have to have ownership of Uruguay, Santa Fe, Parana, or Rio Grande do Sul, which I think are just surrounding neighboring states, if I recall correctly, and this is the one that gives the birth rate. But minus 20% innovation and plus mortality and minus throughput. That's not nice. Interesting. And a bunch of people die and minus legitimacy? Okay. Once Paraguay launches play against Argentina, the war will escalate, granting journal entries for its opponent and encouraging them to stand together against the invasion. Very interesting. So you become like this military thing, and then you just go about your thing. It might make Paraguay a very interesting playthrough experience. Utter ruin to the nation. Okay. Now we have the pan-nationalism section for kind of unifying most non-Brazilian South America. Let's kind of get into it. In 1836, South America still bears the scars of wars for independence. It has been marked by both the struggle against Spain and against itself, the collapse of the state of Gran Colombia in the north, and the united provinces of Rio de Plata in the south. Despite this, pan-nationalism thought remained prevalent, especially in former Gran Colombia. So you are going to get a variety of like a unification kind of candidates, some from Gran Colombia, some from Rio de Plata, and then one huge formable between all three of these to have this absolutely massive, Spanish-speaking South America country. You can see that there's events for Gran Colombia and Brazil. Colossus of the South's pan-nationalism journal entries will be active for as long as the nation can retain its North Indian, South Indian, or Plantean cultures. Successfully forming pan-nationalism construction will allow the nation to retain one of these cultures, while failing to do so will lead to a loss, etc., mostly etc. Once one of these nations is successfully formed, that is not all, talking about Peru, Bolivia, Rio de Plata, and Gran Colombia, and this is the full pan-nationalism. Once pan-nationalism was researched, or North and South Indian nation that has successfully retained its starting culture has either formed its formable or simply expanded by a large amount, there being, of course, three formables: Gran Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Rio de Plata de Sol, or whatever it's called. This approach will take the form of Simón Bolívar's dream, the Federation of the Andes. And this is a major unification, so you can do this diplomatically, and you can get, a unification of the 19 Andean state regions. And if you do it as Rio de la Plata, which has non-Andean regions, you will just get the full shebang here. And I think they have a picture of it, which is very interesting. Here you see Argentina is left out of these ones, but if you form it as, here we go, as the Rio de Plata de Sol, or whatever it's called. Let's see what it is called, because I keep Rio de la Plata, okay. We're just adding in the sun for no reason. But you will get this huge formable, and so this will be, I think, an interesting play, added interesting texture for play, both in South America and Brazil. So next up we have free content. In addition to the paid content coming in Colossus of the South, 1.5 will include a selection of free content to improve South America as a whole, a little Peru-Bolivia rework. I don't have a strong opinion on this, but it's going to give you kind of more stuff split apart. Let's see, ruled by Supreme Chief aligned with the central government. Interesting. Supreme Protector. And then this is, okay, well, I guess they're all aligned with Peru or Bolivia, and they will get annexed by them. The game starts, the states of the Peru-Bolivian Confederation are working to establish a stable government with a functional constitution while facing pressure from their neighbors. The Peru-Bolivian journal entry has been reworked now, requiring the maintenance of a legitimate government and management of more component states against the foreign aggression. The Peru states will begin with a large amount of radicals, presenting risk for the revolt and break free from Bolivian influence. Interesting. So I guess a little bit more of a, or less railroaded type thing, more of a less. We hate the English language. The Peru-Bolivian government, or if it forms the Confederation, it will present serious challenge to balance power in the region, and nations facing off will know this as well. So does that make I suppose that makes countries to the north and south a little bit scared. While the process of unifying the Peru-Bolivian Confederation is ongoing, AI nations will have greatly increased aggression towards Peru-Bolivia. Interesting, seeking to formally dissolve the Confederation by liberating Bolivia's puppets. This is actually going to make it really easy for you to, as the player, to go after them, I think, which is currently very, very meta. A new journal entry has been made available for the player nations with an interest in the region, presenting solutions to this problem. Either the Confederation must be smothered in its cradle, yikes, or it must be amicable. Who's writing this copy? Smothered in the cradle, brutal. Alright. If these threats are averted, etc., Peru-Bolivia forms, and we will get a little bit of a counterweight to Brazil. It has notably gold deposits, which is one of the reasons why it's pretty meta to go after Peru-Bolivia currently. Really resource rich, does not take a lot of infamy, and if you subjugate Bolivia at game start, eventually when it becomes Peru-Bolivia, you kind of get the whole shebang for a discount. Okay. Next up, we have migration. The New World in the 19th century has enormous potential, but low population. Free to all players, update 1.5 contains journal entry for New World nations to design to greatly boost immigration from Europe to allow fully populating one's nation. Migration has also been reworked with the cultural communities mechanic, which seems to allow the migration of discriminated pops within your market and this type of thing. And so migration is going to, the metagame around migration is going to change enormously. We see populating the Americas. I believe you just get to move pops and suffer malice by promoting European migration, but this gives you, the player, a little bit more agency, in addition to boosting base migration attraction while it's active. Wait, what? Yikes. This journal entry permits a North or South American nation that to create migrants within its territories, drawing European migrants in search of a better life. So more explosive start for the likes of Argentina and Brazil and like these types of stuff. We see come to Ecuador, and we see the Spanish pops in Spain will migrate to Pastaza. Which with no kind of indication of exactly what the bonus is going to be. So okay. Includes modding support for mass migrations, allowing creation of migration target script for all of your immigration or immigration encouragement needs. Interesting. Next up, we have culture. We have a little bit more updated culture map. Upon research nationalism, this will rapidly change. Once you have your national identity, a South American nation will be set on a race to the development of its own identity. Once the progress bar reaches 0, the regional culture will be replaced by a true national culture, locking it out of the pan-national content. So you're on a timer to do your pan-nationalism, while regional formations are still available. Let's see. Okay, while regional formations are still available, they will be prone to secessions. The Federation of the Andes will no longer be possible. Yikes. So you are in a bit of a timer. We see it's just gaining progress each month, I guess. Okay, and it determines what your primary cultures will be. Upon completing this journal entry, the nation will lose its previous regional culture and gain a new national culture. The new national cultures will begin with homelands is solely in the nation's capital, with the previous culture retaining its homelands but no longer being primary culture. Yikes. A little secession thing. And so we will see some of this. But the main takeaway is that these will be dynamic. Okay. Next up, we have the Amazonas, and this is the one I'm very excited for. For nations that own the Amazonas states, the Exploring the Amazon journal entry has been reworked with all new buttons. We love the new buttons for transforming the Amazon rainforest into an asset. For Brazil, this contains additional content granting the ability to claim the state of Acre from Bolivia and resolving border disputes in Brazil's favor, but not the other way around. Terrible. We have 5 buttons. By creating rubber plantations in the Amazon, the nations will be rewarded with journal entry that will allow them to transform. This is somewhat late if it's under rubber industries, but we see develop Amazonian state, and you will get some malices temporarily, but if we scroll down, if I recall correctly, wow, 50% migration attraction, and Amazons lose the Amazon rainforest trait and gain the developed Amazon rainforest trait. So just kind of taking a look here, this is kind of one I was excited about. Amazon rainforest gives minus 30% state construction efficiency and infra. It also gives increased building hardwood output, but you can see you can advance through the journal entry towards exploited Amazon rainforest, which only gives minus 10% state construction efficiency and infra, which isn't too bad. But gives plus 20% migration attraction, which is actually a pretty nice modifier. Although I guess you don't want to attract people to your state construction problem places. But 10% agricultural throughput's also nice. And again, you still have the hardwood. So, this is going to be pretty significant. You will have, military, you will have some treaties that Brazil gets, gets to acquire some lands. This will not limit Brazil's expansionist ambitions, however. If a Brazilian player wishes, they may use this journal entry buttons to claim the Bolivian state of Acre, the new journal entry. And so, we see a little bit of a picture with Brazil kind of getting the whole shebang of the Amazones. And we also have, next up, some new achievements. There are 6 new achievements directly tied to Colossus of the South's content. And so this will be in addition to, in the previous Dev Diary, what we had seen for getting new achievements just for 1.5. But we will get Magnanimous, playing with Brazil, complete the Magnanimous journal entry and preserve the monarchy. And we get a nice little portrait of Pedro. Federation Dame, form the Federation of the Andes. I think you'll probably want to do it as Argentina in terms of power level because you get the biggest territory. Estado Novo, as Brazil, make Vargas your ruler and complete the new Republic journal entry. So I guess this is opposed to the Brazilian one. Piratini, not Piratini, starting as Piratini or Paura, have a higher GDP than Brazil. The truth hurts. Republic of Death, starting as Paraguay, complete the expanding Paraguay and populating America's journal entry. This is exciting. The Devil's Railroad, completely exploiting the Amazon's journal entry and build railroads in all Amazonian states. And then finally we have, and that is all. Thank you for reading. Okay, so just for those of you who aren't already getting it for free with the general entry, you can put it on your wish list on Steam, just a heads up, and we will now get busy putting the final touches on update 1.5, which is compiling an absolutely massive changelog. We'll probably have like a 2-hour rundown of that, and you will get access to the next development diary on November 9th. Until then, blah, blah, blah. Also, I think we might have skimmed over it or we might have missed it. The release date for all this is going to be November 14th. And so on November 14th, we will get the full release. I think that might have been kind of towards the end or the beginning of here. First off, the long-awaited update 1.5, which has been in open beta since September, will be released on November 14th. So this is what's going on. I hope you enjoyed this, rather long, Dev Diary rundown on mainly local flavors, primarily in Brazil, but also, getting a little bit more dynamism. I really love the fact that you can actually exploit the Amazons, though. This is one of my favorite changes, which will make all the territory much better. If you can get rid of that 30% malice, that 30% malice is so nasty, and so being able to get rid of that is an enormous thing, and it also will actually create a metagame where I think you want to, rush rubber, which is, all in all, this, will create dynamic and interesting play patterns that are unique to the region, and so I'm super, super excited about this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to comment, subscribe, and etc., mostly etc. Don't forget to etc., and also etc.